is the ultimate travel guide from the people who know it best. Weekends with Yankee.
I'm so excited about today because I'm going to be cooking with my friend Mary Ann Esposito. You probably know her as the host of the longest-running cooking show on television, Ciao Italia, and she lives here in New Hampshire's seacoast. Now, I don't want to show up empty-handed for my Italian hostess, so I've come to downtown Portsmouth to one of my favorite Italian bakery cafes to pick up something sweet.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So I'm going to visit my friend Mary Ann Esposito today. We're going to be cooking together, but I want to have something.
So all of our pastries are made in-house from scratch. We make all our ricotta fillings for our cannolis from scratch, cinnamon with chocolate chip, a little bit of pistachio with lemon zest. So this goes on and on.
Maybe one of each. That'd be perfect.
Definitely.
Okay.
Happy to help.
Mary Ann, you truly live in a little corner of heaven. What am I looking out on here?
Well, you're looking at the Oyster River, because at one time in Durham, that used to be full of oysters. And then things got a little polluted in the waters, and the oysters kind of disappeared. And then through UNH and their programs, they were able to kind of bring the river back. So the oyster beds are now growing and thriving. But this river goes right out to Little Bay, Great Bay, and then you're in the ocean.
You have the longest-running cooking program on television, period, right?
Yeah.
And it's an Italian cooking show. How did that come to be?
When I started my show, which was way back in 1989, I would go to the grocery store looking for things like osso buco, you know, and the butcher would look at me and go, "Excuse me, ma'am, we have ground chuck, we've got pot roast," you know. And that's when I knew it would be a little bit difficult. So I wrote a proposal at some point about doing a local show. I had no vision of doing anything for a national audience. This was just to get people interested in what is real Italian food.
Right.
And so I went over to the station. I had this proposal ready. I said, you know, this is what I'd like to do. 13-part series about Italian regional food, something outside the realm of what people thought of as Italian food, spaghetti and meatballs. And they were courteous. They took it and they said, "Thank you very much." I felt like it was going to go to the round file. So I got a call saying, "We have a new studio now. We kept your proposal. We'd like to do a pilot program."
Wow.
And I said, "Great," having no idea what that was all about, because I'd never worked in TV. And so on a hot August day, they came to my home, big truck in front of the house, and they came in and they gelled my windows, stopped the clock, slapped some makeup on you, and said, "Okay, now talk." And that's how Ciao Italia started. Here that's written down.
And with your smile like Mona Lisa.
Oh, golly, gee whiz. My wine, and don't you love my brush? This is the way they do it in Umbria, of course. Just
Having grown up Italian myself, Italian-American, it's hard to remember how much the foods outside of spaghetti and meatballs and calzones was considered pretty exotic and sometimes weird. I remember I grew up eating pesto, and I remember my friends being like, "Green spaghetti? What's that? You know, that's so gross. What is that?"
With 20 regions of Italy, the food is very different from region to region. I mean, your family's from the Piedmont.
Right.
My family's from southern Italy.
Right.
Your cooking years ago would not have been even recognized in southern Italy, much less in the United States.
Right.
And
Like
vice versa.
Butter in the north,
Right,
olive oil in the south.
right.
Yeah. When I saw you cooking real regional foods, it was like, look, we're being represented. And now it's so commonplace, but you were part of bringing that much deeper sense of Italian cuisine.
I remember the first thing I uttered on my first show. I said, "There is no such thing as Italian food.
Yeah.
There is only regional food."
So, Mary Ann, what are we making today?
We're going to make something called Erbazzone, and it's a classic dish from Emilia Romagna. And this is usually known as a street food in that area because it's a pie that's filled with Swiss chard.
Ooh.
Candied orange peel, raisins, eggs, ricotta cheese. This is a perfect example of a regional dish that comes from the region of Emilia Romagna. So Erbazzone comes from the word herbe.
Right.
So Erbazzone, a big herb pie. That's what you're getting. So we want to start with making the dough because the dough has to chill. So in a bowl, you want about 1 1/4 cups flour, unbleached all-purpose, and we want a little pinch of salt. We want about 1/4 cup of cornstarch.
Oh, so it'll be very tender.
Yes, and then it has a little bit of sweetness. 1/4 cup of sugar as well. Break up that egg, and we'll add that to this. And while you're doing that, what we really need to do for this is whenever you're making any kind of a pastry-type dough, you want to make sure that you put the fat in while it's cold.
Right.
So I have butter for this. Here is the butter chilled. And you also need some cold water because we want to see where this dough is at. Everything about cooking is in the hands, right?
Right.
So if the dough is too dry, we can add a little bit more water. If the dough is too wet, we can add a little bit of flour. So why don't you put the beaten egg in there?
Okay.
And now we want to add the butter. You want 4 tablespoons of butter.
Oh, okay.
You want to make sure that it's in small pieces. So we're going to have to add some cold water to this.
Okay.
Do that a little bit at a time. You just have to eyeball it. Okay, so we know that that's good. See?
And it has a little bit of the marbling, which is what I always look for with a dough, that the butter, there's still streaks of butter.
You can see the butter.
Yes.
You can still see the butter, which is good. And you always want to control the amount of flour that you put down, because if you use too much, this will be tough. You know, it'll be a tough crust, and we don't want that. So I know that that's good.
Because?
It's not sticking.
Right.
And it's nice and soft. So now we can wrap it in plastic wrap. And that goes in the refrigerator. Now we need to let that rest for about 30 minutes to chill it, and that's going to make it much easier for us to roll.
Okay. What do you attribute the longevity of your show to?
I think it's, you know, keeping it fresh all the time, but also the approachability of what Italian regional food is all about. You don't need a bajillion ingredients to make something wonderful. You just need quality ingredients.
I see some really delicious looking ingredients for this filling.
In the garden is a variety that we have called Bright Light. There's a variety of colored stems growing in the garden. So this is the chard part. This is the part we're using. 2 pounds, and you're saying to yourself, oh, you gotta be kidding me. No, because 2 pounds, that's about 1.5 cups from the 2 pounds. So then what we need is some really good ricotta cheese.
Okay.
And the first thing you have to do is drain it. And we're gonna add just a pinch of salt to that.
Okay.
So there's a little salt. Mix that in. And then, Amy, we want an egg.
Okay.
So if you can, break that egg up a little bit.
Okay.
So we just mix that around. Look at how yellow that is.
Beautiful.
It's the quality of the ingredients that really make this a super, super dish. Well, I never boil this kind of a vegetable or even spinach. Put it over low heat and let it just wilt down. Because if you start boiling it, you've boiled away all of the nutrients. All right, now we can put in the Swiss chard.
Okay.
So all of that Swiss chard goes in. We need to add some sugar, 2 tablespoons. Would you like to put in some nutmeg?
Yes.
You need about 1/4 teaspoon of the nutmeg.
Okay. Great.
Smells good.
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay.
Now we're going to add
some raisins.
Raisins.
Oh, this looks so good.
And then we have orange zest, candied orange zest, and a little bit of fresh breadcrumbs, about 2 tablespoons goes in. That's just to act as a binder.
Right.
And then, just because I want to add my own take on this, these are the Swiss chard stems.
Oh, okay.
So all I did was saute these in a little bit of olive oil.
Okay.
It's ready, and now all we have to do is roll out that dough.
Okay, let's do it.
So
that is a beautiful dough.
It's a beautiful dough.
So you fold it into quarters.
Yeah.
Line up the center.
Line up the center.
I always like that. I think there's something very satisfying about watching the crust just kind of fall away. Can I do the honors?
Yes. And all of that is going to fit in this shell.
I can't believe it's going to fit. It looks like so much.
Yeah. Okay. What I do with that is just flip it. right
Flip it
over the top. And then just kind of ease the paper off, hoping that it isn't going to stick.
Making some progress. Perfect.
So,
Okay.
okay, so.
All right, so I've got the egg wash.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you want me to
Yeah.
brush that on.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Give that a little shine.
Good.
And then the sugar. You want to put that on slowly. Your oven's on, 375, preheated, 30, 35 minutes. All right, Amy.
Oh, this looks and smells incredible.
There's your piece. You should try it.
Oh, boy. Mmm.
You would never know there was Swiss chard in there, would you?
It is like a sweet, delicious,
Like
but
a cheesecake.
nutrition-packed pie. The nutmeg and the orange peel. It's so fragrant.
Plays right off of that Swiss chard and the ricotta cheese.
Oh, my gosh.
I taught history for many years, and that's why I love to bring in the history of food with the recipes. It's not just, okay, here's the recipe, we're gonna do this, that's it.
There's a story.
There's
always
a story behind each recipe. So I'm still teaching history, but it's the history of food. I still have a classroom, but it's just bigger, and I'm still enjoying what I do.
Right.